And welcome to the Oddity Archive, the show that has very mixed feelings about this one. Today we're going to take a decidedly incomplete overview of the major players of the public domain VHS Distributors game, which of course peaked back in the 80s and 90s. And as I quite explicitly implied there, favorites will be skipped. Get over it. Anyway, while I'm making good popular statements here, I want to start things off with an editorial. A very long editorial. And I'm not sorry in the slightest. I consider myself someone that comes very much from the preservationist end of things, and a lot of these companies, I think, are going, or went, in very much the opposite direction, you know. Their whole MO was, what can we take, legally slap on a tape, put in some cheap packaging, get it out the door, and make a quick buck? And here's where the mixed feelings come in favor of these old companies. You know, as much as I love something like archive.org today, I think in some ways it's been very detrimental. I mean, nowadays you just go, you look up something, you download it. It's all very passive. So it's kind of killed the thrill of the hunt. And then on an artsy level, it's really killed off kind of the bizarre allure of a lot of the artwork of a lot of these old tapes. And worst of all, in my opinion, at least with regards to the more entertainment-centric titles, you know, old TV shows and stuff, it's taken the already very low bar of quality and lowered it that much more. Because you go on now and invariably it's a Lord knows what generation dub of something, and it's a copy of a copy of a copy of a file, and it's just one big pixelated, artifact-laden mess. Now, let me go off on a little tangent here. On a strictly personal level, I can honestly say that I would not be here making this show today if it weren't for some of these companies. I mean, some of the very first tapes I ever owned were of this sort of stuff. And then as I got a little older, you know, I started going exploring and I got into classic TV and silent film and stuff. And when you're 13 years old and you don't really have much of any money, not that you have a whole lot as an adult either, but, you know, it's a good cheap way to get into it. You know, you spend $1.99, $2.99 on a tape, and you just go exploring. And I can't tell you how many bad edits of silent films that I saw as a teenager, of where, you know, it would just be one bad splice after another. The title cards would all be in another language, and the soundtrack would just be random needle drops of old 78s, and so it was quite an experience. But having said that, I can honestly say that I am not nostalgic for this stuff. I say this because, you know, nowadays you have a lot more options. Back in the 90s, it was still, I think it was still considered cultural refuse, a lot of this stuff. And it was only from about 2000 up to now where it's been making a comeback, and there's been enough interest to spur some real restorations and real reissues of this stuff, well thought out stuff. And as I said, back in the old days, sometimes it was your only option, period. Now, finally getting back to my argument here, archive.org, I think, has also been very good to the whole public domain thing in a way, too. Yeah, because you've been getting some real preservationists going in over the last 20 years or so, maybe a little longer. Guys like Rick Prellinger and our friends over at AV Geeks, and, you know, all of whom have been very good to the archive, full disclosure there. And so it's... this stuff would just be sitting rotting on a shelf if it weren't for those guys. And when I say it, I mean ephemeral stuff that we do here on the archive. So, as you've probably gathered by now in my own long-winded way, I have very, very mixed feelings about this stuff. But today's show, we're going to take a look at the good, by public domain crap house standards, and the absolute bottom of the barrel garbage. Let's get started, at long last. The company I have the most experience with is the Madison Music Group, or these days Madison Lifestyle Marketing, an outfit just as much known for hawking K-Tel-style re-recordings of pop and rock oldies as they are public domain stuff. Now, they do have some genuinely legit offerings to their name. Most notably, they're distributing the current reissue of the David Shepard-produced Slapstick Encyclopedia, even if their packaging leaves something to be desired. Madison was, and still is, based out of St. Laurent, Quebec, but we're not here to discuss what they're up to these days. Back in the 90s, Madison was home to some decently packaged but shoddily assembled, content-wise, straight-up public domain releases. Now, before we look at any Madison stuff sans commentary, I absolutely have to note their 1993 opening logo. Never in my life have I ever seen such a schizophrenic logo. They just can't seem to figure out if they want to present themselves as serious and stately, or if they're trying to amp you up for a hair metal concert. As I mentioned in my little tirade earlier, a lot of these companies, when it comes to silent films, they'd have these very blurry, choppy edits and these random needle drop soundtracks. Now, Madison, as far as I'm concerned, was the worst in terms of this sort of thing. And looking at it now, not necessarily so much in terms of enjoyment of the actual content, but in a purely surrealist way, in kind of a hipster way, I guess you could say, it's kind of perversely amusing watching how it just creates its own, as I implied, surrealist mud is the best way I can put it. Take a look.
What's that I hear at 12 o'clock in the daytime? Church bell ringing.
Man, you don't hear no church bell ringing 12 o'clock in the day.
Yes, indeed. Somebody must be dead.
Ain't nobody dead. Somebody must be dead drunk.
No, I think it's a funeral.
Now, look here. I believe it is a funeral. I believe I hear that trombone phone.
You should belong to the Deaf and Dumb Society.
I'm sorry, boss, but I got the sidewalk blues.
This next company was based out of Nashville, Tennessee, then Charlotte, North Carolina, and then Fort Mill, South Carolina. And like Madison, they put out some copyrighted stuff, but perhaps unsurprisingly, it was of pretty variable quality. Now, in my personal experience with this company, I don't mind it so much if there's a couple of splices in something, but when you get to the point where it's just lazy mastering errors, stuff that really could have been fixed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know what company this is? No, this my friend, my buddy boy from Colorado is UAV, man. UAV, United American Video. Oh, you don't know? You don't know about United American Video? Well, let me tell you something, Chico. UAV was founded in the late 80s, and they were known for putting out some public domain shit, you know, like these little cartoony type shit, and feature-length films like Metropolis. Lovely, gorgeous Metropolis with them high-ass towers that look like my dick. They also put out low-quality copies of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, WKRP in Cincinnati, Bob Newhart, you name it, bro. They put that shit out. And you didn't even know this shit, did ya? They had a little license with Film Fucking Mation. Remember Frady Cat, Gilligan's Planet, Fat Albert, and the fucking Cosby Kids? Yeah, they had a license for that shit, and they put that shit out on VHS. And it sucked major King Kong sized balls. You sit there in front of your fucking cardboard box, spouting off your random ass bullshit about Max Headroom, about the Happy Hamster and Grandpa, about Rejuvenate, about Betamax, Laserdisc, Telefunken Ted. But yeah, once you step into this territory, you're entering into my domain, you fuck ass. And you better leave while you have the fucking chance. I will now return you to your regularly fucking scheduled programming, you asshats.
That never happened. Got it? It never happened. Anyway, as I was saying before I got so rudely cut off there, I was about to discuss UAV, but I guess I don't have to now. I'm still going to a little anyway. My personal experience with this company has been headache-inducing. And here's what I mean by that. Oh yeah, and I've thrown in a little early company logo as a bonus for you. Merry Christmas, kids.
Are you Mrs. Burns?
Yes, Mr. Burns is much taller.
My, that coffee smells good.
Oh, would you like a cup?
I'd love it.
Oh, all right. Oh, please excuse the looks of the house. You know, it's hard to keep it straight.
Oh, children do have a way of messing up a house, all right.
Oh, we have no children.
As we learned long ago on the AimVest video episode, a lot of these companies were a bit slippery, and I guess that's gonna set the tone for the rest of today's show. Now, this next company, like AimVest, was also based out of New Jersey, and they were called Transatlantic Video. And the only reason I even bring this company up at all, because their output was actually pretty unremarkable, was the fact that they had a certain gimmick, a gimmick that got repeated by a few others in subsequent years, and that was their tapes actually carried a warranty. A warranty that was only good if you kept your original receipt, were willing to send in the bad tape, were willing to throw in a couple bucks for shipping, and most importantly, only if your tape was defective, not because it was worn out or you smeared peanut butter on it or something. Of course, they're all out of business now. Of course, nowadays you could just probably pop down to Goodwill and get another one. Of course, in the old days, you could have just popped down to Walgreens and gotten another one for $2.
If this plan fails, I will quit and go back to New Jersey.
Step on it, knuckleheads. We'll be late for the movie.
I'd sure hate that. They're showing a cartoon. I like cartoons.
Gentlemen, you have won first prize. Hooray! Hooray, hooray! You are so lucky.
Prize? How come we get a prize?
Yeah, what we do? We didn't even enter the contest.
Admittedly, a colossal pet peeve of mine in the public domain game is what I like to refer to as Raymond Rohauer syndrome. Now, for the 99.9999999% of my audience who has no idea who Raymond Rohauer was, he was a film collector. He passed away back in 1987, but his big thing was to collect prints of movies that had fallen into the public domain. Then he would make some nominal change to it. You know, he'd add a text prologue to the movie. If it was a silent film, he'd rewrite the title cards or just add a couple of new ones. And then he'd tack his name and a copyright notice onto it, and then he'd ship it off to the Library of Congress and claim a new copyright on it because theoretically it is now a new work. And, you know, it wouldn't have been so bad, except he was kind of known to go after people who were also using those movies, but not necessarily his prints. Now, I'm a little off topic here, but it comes back around to this company, Burbank Video. And this company was based out of, you guessed it, beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And their big thing was to add new music and sound effects to these old public domain things so they could claim a new copyright on it. Now, according to the Copyright Office's records, all of Burbank's stuff was filed on the same day in 1989, and they were also an assumed name of Viking Entertainment Incorporated, which was, strangely enough, also based out of Burbank. And when trying to research, quote-unquote, Viking Entertainment Inc., Burbank, California, unquote, I kept finding a musical instrument store. That's really a recording studio? Actually, I guess that would kind of make sense, wouldn't it? I do have to hand them this much, though. It was a pretty creative way of getting into the public domain game. Our final company today is Vid Tape Inc., and they were based out of Placentia, California, and later on Riverside, and they're best remembered now for the Cartoons Are Fun series. And these, for the most part, were just your standard fare, let's slap some public domain cartoons on a tape and throw it out the door sort of variety. But they were a little cheaper than most. I mean, their boxes were open on both ends, and the tapes themselves, it reminds me of the Rejuveneek tape. How could I forget? It reminds me of it in the sense that there's no windows. It's very lightweight. I could probably drive my thumb through it if I tried hard enough, and, you know, fond memories. But anyway, I digress. They had a bit of a Burbank Video streak themselves, but whereas Burbank Video would just make some nominal change, Vid Tape would actually go to the effort of redubbing the cartoons in Spanish. Which seems like a good idea, doesn't it? Well, not really, because that would actually take effort, and they weren't willing to put it in. So what you get here are a couple of middle-aged Hispanic men doing all the voices, and not very well, young, old, male, female, everybody. And then you couple that with the bad prints. I mean, they're really bad. The super cheap tape quality, some horrendously dated cartoons, and, well, you didn't need to sleep tonight, did you?
No te quedes, no, tienes que ir a la escuela, Lulú. No le hagas caso, hombre. Chihuahua, hombre, tú no puedes ni hablar. Ella se quiere de pesca, déjala. No, Lulú, te puedes convertir en una mula, te puedes convertir en un animal si no vas a la escuela. No, hombre, ¿cuál animal ni qué nada, hombre? Tú eres inteligente. Ya, vámonos de pesca. Mira, esto es lo que tú quieres, ¿verdad que sí, Lulú? Vámonos de pesca. No, Lulú, no te hagas nada. De castigo escribe 1000 veces, no volveré a faltar. Vete a tu casita. Ir a la escuela conmigo. No me hagas que sea tan cruel. No puedes ir. No. Lo siento. Buenos días, niñitos. Buenos días a ti. Buenos días a todos. Buenos días, niñitos. A ti y a ti. Buenos días.
¿De quién será? ¡Ay! Como que oí una voz. ¿Quién me habla? Hola, muchachito. ¿A tú dónde llevas ese pie, ¿A dónde lo llevas? Ay, pues se lo llevo al diácono Jones porque me lo pidió. Lo manda mi mamá. Está muy sabroso, ¿verdad? Mire, sí. Y se lo llevo. Pues, ¿por qué no lo das a nosotros? ¿Por qué no nos lo das a nosotros? Se ve muy sabroso.
¿Qué le voy a decir a mi mamá del pie? ¿Ahora qué le digo?
No te preocupes, hijo. Estamos adentro de un pie. Mira.
Eso es todo, amigos.
I so don't get paid enough to do this. Oh well, that's it for today's archive. Join us next time when I spend the entire episode fighting off a bunch of erroneous copyright claims on today's public domain material. 'Cause you know it's gonna happen.